Hi everybody, this is Laura
and Arnie
with Crazy Cool Cakes, and today we're coming to you with a super fun tutorial. We're going to be teaching you how to make this adorable and fun donut cake. It's a cake, sweetie. This is for the tutorial. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Hope you guys enjoy it. So for this donut cake, we're only going to need 2 cakes because, as you know, donuts are not very tall. So we bake our cakes pretty tall, and we're going to torte each one to 1.25 inches in height. So if you haven't seen my torting video, be sure to check it out. So we're just going to do that real quick. Okay, so we have our 2 torted cakes here, and we've done away with the scraps thanks to my husband. He always likes to eat the leftovers. So now we're going to cut out the circle in the middle of the donut. For my 8-inch cake, I'm going to use a 2 3/4 inch circle cutter. So I'm just going to place this right in the center. And again, my cake itself is only, how tall did I say it was? About 1.25 inches in height. So as you can see, the entire cutter there fit nicely. I'm gonna flip this over. And we line our cake pans with parchment paper, so this is what you see here. And I'm going to go ahead and push this out.
Oh boy, more leftovers.
Here's another little cake for you, baby. Okay, and then just push that out. Real nice circle there. Okay, let's do the same with the other one. That looks pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it looks like a wheel from the Flintstones.
Look how cool these look.
I love it.
Cute.
I'm having that tonight.
No, you ain't. And now what we're gonna do is I'm going to actually flip these over, and I have an X-Acto blade, and I'm going to just trim the parchment paper so that it also has a hole in the center. Doesn't have to be perfect, just so that there's a hole in the middle. We don't cut the hole out on the second one. This is going to be the bottom layer, and the purpose of creating the hole in the first one is I'm now going to remove this, and I'm going to place it on top of the bottom. The reason I'm doing this is because when I'm carving and sculpting, I like the bottom of one of the cakes to be the top. So the purpose of the parchment is so that these 2 cakes don't stick together while I'm carving.
Oh, that's excellent.
How did I figure that out?
How do you do that?
I have no idea. I just figured it out one day.
You're a genius, that's why.
Thank you. So what we're gonna do now is start carving our cake. So we're gonna take a really nice long serrated knife, and of course it helps to have handy just a regular short kitchen knife. Usually people like to use turntables when they're sculpting. That for me is just too much moving around, so I like to have my cake a little bit steadier. So for carving purposes, I'm only going to put this on an 8-inch cake board for now. And I'm gonna go ahead and take my smaller serrated knife, and I'm going to begin to carve the circle on the inside. So you're just gonna shave off very small amounts. Just want to get it nice and rounded. More scraps for you, baby.
I can't wait.
And then of course it helps to have a few pictures of a donut printed in front of you so that you can be referring to. At this point I don't need pictures because I'm an expert when it comes to donuts. I eat about 1 million of them.
Krispy Kreme.
That's right. Just the beginning. Now of course we want to round off the top, so for this I'm going to take my longer knife and I'm going to just begin to cut all the way around. Don't be afraid to grab the cake and then just turn it with your hand. As you can see, this cake is nice and dense. It's better to, when you're carving and sculpting a cake.
That's starting to look like a real donut. I'm sorry, go ahead.
When you're carving and sculpting a cake, it really helps to work your way around and just go little by little, because if you cut off too much, you can't get it back. So now that I've already cut off a little bit of cake all around the edge, so now all the sharp corner of the cake is gone. So I also want to make this a little bit rounded, so I'm going to cut off just a tiny little bit on the top. Starting to look very cool. And you also want to avoid the sides of the cake being totally straight. The donuts are nice and rounded on the side. That looks really nice. And let me just give the top part a little bit more.
Then more off the top?
So as you can see, the parchment paper that's on the bottom of the bottom cake makes it easy for me to slide it around on the cardboard. And so the cake is only moving when I want it to move. If it's on a turntable, it's all over the place and it's really hard to control. Any little imperfections, don't worry about it, because when we ice it, it's gonna be nice and smooth. Okay, so I'm gonna let my husband eat all of this so we can clean up the table
in one sitting?
And we'll be back on the next space. So now what we're gonna do is you are going to take a little piece of parchment paper big enough to cover the top of the donut, and then you're just gonna carefully lift and flip the whole thing over, just like that, okay? And now we can go ahead and put this back on top of here. Remove your other parchment. This is trash now, we don't need that anymore. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same to the bottom part of the donut. Even though officially this part isn't gonna be seen because it's the bottom, I like it to look like an actual donut. So I'm just gonna carve a little bit. This is just if a person happens to look into the inside.
And then they go, oh, you know, the inside didn't really look like a donut.
Yeah.
What a letdown.
So, since you don't want to let down your clients, okay, just make it look like an actual donut. And then, of course, that means more scraps for you.
Oh, just counting the ways.
And then, for the outside, we're going to do the same thing we did. Let's get rid of the entire top sharp edge. Hold the knife at an angle. And then, as you're doing this, little by little, be turning the cake. Take your time, have fun with it. All right, nice and rounded. Okay, so we've cleaned up the mess, and this is still the bottom of our donut. So all we're gonna do now is pick it up, flip it over, and just for a little bit, we're going to place it on our cake board. This is an 8-inch cake board, and of course we started off with 8-inch cakes, and you definitely do not want the cake board to be seen underneath the cake. So the way that I like to trim my cake board so that it matches whatever I'm sculpting, I put it on the cake board, take a pencil, and I'm just going to mark the bottom of the cake. So I'm just tracing, just so that I have a good visual of where I need to cut. Whenever you're doing numbered cakes or shoe cakes or anything that is 3D, this is the way that I trim my cake boards. And then also, I'm gonna cut out a hole in the cardboard inside because I don't want people seeing the cardboard inside the cake. So I'm gonna just trace the inside of the cake. You get a little pencil on the cake, no big deal. It is graphite, it is completely organic. Okay, so now I'm gonna remove the cake, put it back on my parchment paper, and here is the tracing. So very easily, take a pair of scissors, very easy to cut, no big deal. And now I'm going to cut out the center hole, so just take a blade, X-Acto knife. Be careful that you do not stab yourself, and then just carefully cut the hole in the center. Ow! Just playing.
Oh, scared me there.
Easy peasy, Chinesey.
Why's it gotta be all that?
For those of you that don't know, my husband is part Chinese. He doesn't speak a lick of Chinese. How that happened, I have no idea. It's a shame if you ask me. Okay, so there is our donut board. So you saw me just tape my little donut cardboard onto a larger cardboard. This is a 10-inch, and if you've seen my icing tutorials, you'll see that I always like to tape my cardboards to my turntable to make it easier for me to ice. So all I'm gonna do is add a little bit of soft icing to my cake board. If you haven't yet, be sure to check out our tutorial on icing consistencies. And the purpose of this is just to get the cake to stick to the cardboard, and then also to seal, to add a little film onto the cardboard cake board so that there's no cardboard flavor on the cake. We have our donut cake here, and I'm going to turn it over, and I'm gonna place the bottom part onto my cake board. And all I'm doing is looking down the hole, centering the donut on the hole perfectly, so you can see there it's nice and centered. And now I'm going to grab some of my hard icing, which is what we use to down. If you haven't seen our tutorial, be sure to check it out.
What's your language? Yes.
So I like to place a small worm right on the edge. And I like to dam all of my layers because I do not want any icing squirting out and deforming my beautiful smooth sides. A little string here. Okay, and then I'm also going to add a little dam right in the middle.
Damn that donut.
I'm damming it. Damming the heck out of it. Okay. And now we're just going to fill our donut little by little. Now, of course, this would be a lot easier if you just filled another piping bag with this stuff and then you just squirted it. So we'll fast forward this. Okay, so just smooth it out all the way around. Okay, so now we have our donut nice and filled. Now we will take our top layer, remove the parchment, and then carefully place it right on top. Okay, line up the hole. Looks nice in there, okay? And then just gently press it down. Nice little fat donut. And then I like to squeeze the sides to make sure that everything's aligned. Okay, now we're just gonna crumb coat. This is very simple to do. Pretty nice thin crumb coat. And now all I'm gonna do is stick this in the freezer for a good, I would say 15 minutes. We're not gonna freeze it, we're just gonna chill it like we do with all of our cakes. And then we'll be back to give it our nice layer of thick icing. How does that look so far?
It looks great.
So now that we've taken our donut cake out of the freezer, we've let it chill for a good 10-15 minutes. So now it's nice and hard, and now we're ready to ice it with our hard icing. For this, I'm gonna start on the outside, and I'll start right smack in the middle. Okay, so now I've got all the center. And then of course it does seem like it's quite a bit, but remember we always end up scraping a lot more than we need. So now I'm going to start on the inside. You don't want to put too much on the inside because you don't want to shrink the hole. You still want the donut hole nice and wide. And even this will end up scraping on the inside. Nice and smooth. Now I'm going to just begin to bring the overhang over to the top part till it meets the hole. Smooth it. And I'm going to start working my way back out. Now I'm starting at the bottom here and I'm angling my spatula to make sure that I get icing all the way to the board. our spatula, we're just gonna start to smooth, scrape. All the way around. Get rid of any big giant lumps or bumps.
Or clumps. Man, donut looks big now.
Nice, huh? So now I'm gonna take just a regular bench scraper and I'm gonna start by holding my scraper at an angle matching the bottom of the donut, and I'm just going to gently begin to scrape and hold the scraper in place just to get it as smooth as possible. And then it helps to get down a little bit eye level so that you can see what you're doing. And then just slowly work your way all the way around. Get it nice and smooth. And then I'm raising it little by little. And each time I'm taking off very little, about this much. So you'll see I'm just going little by little. I'm not removing a bunch of icing all at once. Moving up to the top. Now I'm nice and flat at the top. Now you see that there's quite a bit of lines. Can you see all the lines that are on the icing? And of course we don't want that. So this is where I start to use one of my favorite tools. This is a stainless steel scraper. It's a little under 4 inches in length. And this is basically used for clay, polymer clay, or pottery sculpting, but I love it because it bends. And I like to use this for cakes that have to be iced in round shape. So very easily I can just bend the scraper with my finger. So here on the inside, I'm gonna go ahead and hold the scraper at an angle, and I'm going to curve the scraper, and it will actually remove the icing at the shape that I want. So you can see it's already taking on a nice round curve in the hole. Can you see that, Barry?
Yeah.
It makes life so much easier. And then of course we will also use this for the top and the side of the cake to get it nice and round. I'm curving the scraper to the shape of my donut, and I'm just going to gently, and you control where the scraper is touching and how much icing it's taking off. So you can see here, the lines are already starting to disappear and it's getting smoother and smoother and smoother. This is very fun, almost like a pottery wheel.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like a pottery wheel.
Nice. This is actually, look how nice and smooth that's already looking. Okay, so this is just to get rid of the major lines. Now I'm going to curve the scraper once again to be nice and flush. As long as you've gotten rid of the majority of the really deep lines and grooves, you are good, because now our little Viva paper towel is gonna do the rest of the trick. And now we're going to use our Viva paper towel to smooth out the icing. We do not stick this in the refrigerator. As soon as I'm done icing it, I do the Viva paper towel technique on the icing, and I can do that because our icing is so awesome and it does not stick. Does not stick to the paper towel. So if you want to use an awesome icing like this one, be sure to check out Edna de la Cruz's buttercream recipe, and of course you can find the link to that and to our icing consistency tutorials underneath this video. So for those of you that do not know, a Viva paper towel does have 2 different sides to it. One side is much smoother than the other, so if you just look at it very closely, you will see that one side is rougher than the other. So I'm placing my towel soft side down, and I'm just taking my smoother and gently smoothing the top of my donut. And just smooth all the way around. So you can see I'm just letting the towel just kind of hang over the side, and I'm just smoothing up and down. Don't let that happen. What just happened there? Big old crease. But the great thing is you can smooth it out in magic.
You do a do-over.
That's right. Mulligan. This donut cake is going to our local police department.
Well, one of the precincts.
Because they are so awesome. On the sides here, just place the towel. The bottom part of the towel nice and flat, flush with the bottom of the cake, and then just hold your smoother at an angle, and then just smooth the bottom of the cake like you would a regular tiered cake, but just at an angle. Alright, so there's the whole side of the cake, nice and smooth. So you're going to smooth the inside of the donut and this top part here with your finger. Nice and smooth. Don't be afraid, just be very gentle. Patting down any icing that's sticking up. And of course the majority of the top of the donut is going to be decorated with big giant colorful sprinkles and all of that, but you do want to get it as smooth as possible because any big bumps and stuff you will see through the fondant. How does that look?
Looks great.
Alright, so now we're going to stick this in the refrigerator, and I'm going to leave it in there for maybe a good hour or two, let it get nice and rock hard, and then we'll go ahead and cover it in fondant. Now that our cake is nice and hardened, we've left it in the fridge for a couple of hours, we're ready to go ahead and cover it in fondant. So the very first thing that we're going to do is cover the inside of the hole with fondant. That way we're not forcing fondant all the way down to the bottom of the donut. So I'm just going to take a ruler and I'm putting it all the way to the bottom. And I'm not going all the way to the top, just a little bit halfway up towards the top of the donut. So I'm going to cut a strip of fondant that is 3 inches right there, 3 inches tall or in width. The strip of fondant in there will be at least, just taking a measuring tape, just to see more or less about 8 inches. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get some donut colored fondant and roll that out. Alright, so this fondant here is a beautiful ecru color, and I made this just mixing some white with a little bit of brown and a little bit of yellow. So I'm just gonna roll this out. Okay, so here's my fondant nicely rolled out. I'm gonna take a ruler, and of course it will probably be a little bit shorter than this, but at least we can get the most of the size. Okay, so 8 inches. So probably will be even smaller than this, but I'm just gonna trim this just to get me started. Again, we're just covering the hole on the inside, and then we're gonna go 3 inches tall or in width. I'm just making a quick little mark, and of course this does not have to be absolutely perfect because remember, this is the inside of the donut. The purpose of doing this is just to make sure you can't see any icing in the hole. So I'm just gonna bring my cake out and see how that fits. All right guys, so here is our hardened cake, and I have this strip of fondant that I just cut out. This is 3 inches tall or in width, and all I'm gonna do is just kind of loop it and fit it in there and see if it's pretty nice. There is a little bit of overlapping right now. It's going all the way to the bottom, so I'm just gonna trim. It overlapped maybe about an inch, so I'm gonna go ahead and trim. And then to make it easy for me, I'm just gonna go ahead and spray the back of the fondant strip with water, and then that way I can easily stick it. Some of you may not have seen my tutorial on using our Flairosol bottle. This makes life a lot easier rather than with a little paintbrush and water. So I'm just spraying the back of it, and then I'm just going to once again loop it. And hopefully it will fit. And I'm just gonna drop it in there, drop it like it's hot. And then just with your hands gently press it in. Make sure it's nice and flush up against the icing on the inside. If you want, you can take a little rolling pin and just use it to smooth the fondant on the inside. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll out some more fondant, same color, and we're gonna cover the entire donut. The first thing that I'm going to do is spray the entire cake with my Periscope bottle, and that makes it a lot easier for me. This is how I get my fondant to stick to icing that's nice and hard. If you don't have one of these and you would like to try one out, be sure to check out the link underneath the video. So I'm just gonna carefully just spray the entire cake. You don't need too much, okay? So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the same circle cutter that I used to cut the center of the two cakes. What I'm gonna do is cut a hole right in the middle of the fondant, and that way I can center the whole of the donut. And I'm going to carefully lift the fondant and just aim for the hole. And the good thing is that if it's not perfect like this, you can always just move it around. No biggie.
Yeah.
Almost perfect. And then remember, the top is gonna be covered, so not a big deal. Just get it as smooth as possible. Don't let your fondant bunch up on you. And then just start covering it like you would a regular cake. Okay, and I'm gonna take my smoother and put it in at an angle, and then just try to force the fondant all the way to the very place where it meets the cardboard. Okay, now I'm just gonna trim off as much as possible. Lo más posible. That is your Spanish lesson of the day.
Lo más posible.
As much as possible. Lo más que se pueda.
Lo más.
Okay, baby, that's enough. Okay, so just begin smoothing your donut as much as possible. We are gonna add icing on top, but we want this fondant to be nice and smooth so we don't see any ugly defects coming through. And you can take your little rolling pin and just use that to smooth the top. Nice and smooth. Okay, so just gonna start rolling out my really nice dark chocolate brown fondant. So here's my brown fondant, nice and thin. Since the cake that we're covering is basically an 8-inch, I only want my drizzle to be about 10 inches wide. So for this, all you need to do is take a 10-inch cardboard. We're gonna cut out a circle all the way around. Don't press too hard on the cardboard so that the corrugations on the cardboard don't get too marked on your fondant. Then I'm gonna just take my handheld blade and I'm just going to gently cut a nice cute little curve all the way around, just to mimic a little bit of drizzle. You don't want to go too crazy because then it'll get a little difficult to smooth out. Then I'm gonna go ahead and cut out a hole right in the center, and this is gonna be done with a 2-inch cutter so that the top of the hole of the donut will be covered up. And all I'm gonna do now is simply take my chocolate fondant, get rid of any cornstarch, and with my Periscope spray, I'm just going to spray it down. Just very quick little mist over, not too much. And then I'm going to gently pick it up. And we're gonna turn it around. And I'm just gonna place the hole right in the center. Okay, and then just quickly pick it up. And then don't let it wrinkle up on you, and just gently begin to smooth it down. Push out any bubbles. police officers are gonna love this. I'm going to place my donut cake on my pretty fondant covered board before I actually start decorating it with sprinkles. If you haven't yet, be sure to check out our tutorial on how to cover foam core boards with fondant. This is very simple to do. I'm just gonna place my lifter. And remember, we did tape the little cardboard underneath, and because my cake is nice and rock hard, I can very easily pick it up. Okay, so there it is, nice and released. I'm just gonna get rid of the tapes here and carefully place it back down. Then I'm just gonna add a little bit of our hard icing to the board. And again, nice and cold, so we can just carefully place it on the cake board. Just press it down, nice and centered. So since we are gonna be delivering this in a car, or my husband is, I should say, he's a delivery guy. I wanna make sure it's not gonna be moving around on us. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to stab 2 skewers through the center of each side of the cake, all the way into my board. And then I have some cutters, and I'm just gonna cut. I'm not worried about a little tiny bit of the wood coming out. It's actually better, that way they see it. And then my husband, when he delivers our cakes, he always makes sure to let our clients know when there's a dowel or wire or skewer or anything like that in the cake.
Or a toothpick.
Or anything, yeah. So these are going to be hidden with our sprinkles. So now I can, you know, lift the board and do whatever I want to it. I don't have to worry about it being
I can
moved
take
around.
crazy turns too.
That's right.
Just kidding.
The next thing we're gonna do is make some really beautiful sprinkles, and as you can see here, I have lots of different colors. So I'm just gonna roll out each color into a long tube and just cut 10 little sprinkles out of each one. We might not end up using all of them. Okay, this looks about right, and we're just gonna roll our worm about 1/4 of an inch in thickness. I'm only gonna cut about 10 of these, and let's do about 1 inch long. That looks about right for our size donut. All right, guys, we have all of our little sprinkles here nicely cut, and now we're just gonna very easily add them to the cake. And then of course you can just very randomly, I have a little bit of water here, just add a tiny bit of water. First one I wanna cover up is this little piece of skewer right here. And then now just randomly start to place your sprinkles everywhere, however you think it'll look cute. And these colors really pop up against the brown and the beige. So I'm pretty satisfied with the amount of sprinkles on this cake. I think that looks adorable. All right, guys, so we are finished with our beautiful donut cake, and all we're doing now is just cleaning it up and giving it a nice shine. We're using our My Little Steamer Go Mini. You can check out our other tutorial on how to steam cakes and toppers. Very, very easy to do. You can find the link underneath the video for this little awesome steamer. Look how beautiful that looks.
Looks great.
Nice and shiny, clean. Here's our finished beautiful donut cake. We hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. And thank you so much for being subscribers. We look forward to your wonderful comments. Be sure to join us on Facebook, and also please follow us on Instagram. Thanks everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, y'all. Take care.